Ahoy, legend, and welcome back to CEO Reviews, where I review your workplace problems on Reddit and help you find practical solutions to get stuck into it, get back to being a kick-ass leader. Now, today we are helping Jack Bando, who's posted about needing help supervising. So we'll go through that, look at what the issues are, and I'll give you some practical advice as if we were coaching you to solve that problem. So first, hi everybody, I'm a supervisor at a retail business and I have two issues that I'd like some advice on. Now, this is interesting because retail is one of those super useful, not easy to get through places to work.
And I'll have the number 8. That's a party platter. It serves 12 people. I know what I'm about, son.
I actually believe that everyone should work in hospitality or retail or one of those areas at some point in their life. I started in retail because what you understand, a few things, is that it's a really stressful environment, almost perpetually.
I know more than you.
All right.
And two, you understand that even at people's worst, you can still find ways to navigate fairly complex situations that ultimately don't have super complex outcomes or answers.
Can I be team captain?
No, I'm team captain.
Can I be team manager?
No, I am the team manager. You can be assistant to the team manager.
Assistant team manager?
No.
It's really good, like baptism by fire, to work in retail, particularly as a supervisor. Back into it. First issue, if I see a subordinate slacking, I tend to just find something else to do instead of speaking to them. Has anyone ever had this problem where you see something that shouldn't be happening, but you can't get your feet moving towards the problem to solve it? See something happening that shouldn't be, but you can't move your feet? I'd say move your damn feet is the first thing, but assume that in this they mean, I see there's an issue, but I'm not feeling confident to tackle it. So we'll go with that. Yes, that's normal, it's natural, completely understandable, but you cannot continue to do that. You can't just ignore the problems. Why? Because people around will notice, oh, Jack doesn't really deal with Susie's problems when she does crazy stuff here. Is it okay to do crazy stuff here? I think it might be all right. Or, yeah, Jack, he just doesn't give a shit. Or Jack just doesn't have the steel to deal with it. Don't want that. So some tips. First is, if you're not ready to have the conversation, start purely by just capturing what you see. So if you see that this person, for example, is rude to customers, and you go, well, I'd like to say something. Whenever I go to say it and have the conversation, I don't quite have in my mind what I should be saying. That's fine. What are the observations? Write down, all right, on the 1st of March, I observed Susie doing this and she was rude because she said this, this, and this. I could see the customer was not happy. Great. Let's do that 1 or 2 more times. And then you'll go, ooh, I actually do know what the problem is. It's that Susie likes to cut customers off when they're speaking and then just tell them what they should do instead of asking them if that solves their problem. Great. Now we can have a conversation about that with Susie.
Do you see the problem here?
Yes, but I don't want to.
Now she might get defensive, she might have all kinds of rebuttals, but why not? Let's turn it over quickly on this part to the Buffalo boardroom. Benji, hit it. Great, so we're in the Buffalo boardroom now. What we're gonna do is actually have this conversation between Jack and Susie. Should be possibly painful, but not great. Hey Susie, great to see you today. Look, I wanted to take a moment to talk to you about some of the behaviors I've observed, and the goal here isn't to criticize you or provide anything that makes you super uncomfortable. That might happen, but actually what I'm trying to do is help you understand, well, these are some behaviors we're seeing, and they're not quite aligned to the values, the approach, etc. here, and I actually think they're doing you a disservice with customers.
I have done nothing wrong ever in my life.
Oh, sorry, it looks like you're not terribly happy about that. Just hear me out. Last week on Tuesday, when I was here and you were at the counter, I noticed when the customer said that they wanted help with finding paintbrushes, you cut them off and said, oh, you don't need paintbrushes, just go get the rollers there in this aisle. I could then see that the customer wasn't happy and the customer chose not to buy anything and instead just walked out. Do you think that was the most effective way to manage that situation? Well, I'm the expert. They should know that if I tell them to buy paintbrushes, they need paintbrushes. If they need paint rollers, they need paint rollers. You know, I work here. Aren't they asking me? I can understand how you would say that, but let's put yourself in the customer's shoes. You go in to buy paintbrushes. Let's say you're going to have paintbrushes to deal with this issue at home, and someone tells you, no, just go buy this. Would you be happy about that? Well, no, but that's not what we're talking about. Look, regardless of how you feel about it, what our policy is, or the way we deal with customers here, is that when a customer comes in, we listen to their concerns. What I'd like you to instead do is try to ask some questions next time. Well, I don't need to ask any questions. I know what goes on here. Hear me out. When the customer comes in next time and they say, where are the paintbrushes? You could say, I'd love to show you where they are. Can I just ask what you're using them for? Oh, I'm trying to paint the walls in the bedroom. Oh, well, yeah, you'll need paintbrushes for cutting, but actually a roller would go a lot further. How about I show you where those are too? Oh yeah, that'd be amazing. What do you think about that, Susie? Look, that's not how I do it. I hate to be pushy on this, but this is the way we do it here. And you're gonna have to do it that way because that's the customer service standards we've set. Got it? Okay, fine. Great, so I'm gonna check back in with you in a week and we are going to review how you did and see if you have any questions and just make sure you're tracking along well. Sound good? Yeah, fine. Great, thanks, Susie.
No, I didn't win, but at least I didn't make any new friendships.
Now, obviously, that's a little scripted in its feel, but that's the way these conversations should go. Stated the observations, told them why it's not effective, gave them some options in how they can deal with it, and then told them how I will be back to check on how they do those things effectively. That's it. It's really just having those hard conversations. Cool. Out of the boardroom, back into the normal stuff. Let's pull apart the rest of this post. I have a subordinate, Susie, we're gonna pretend it was Susie for the whole thing, that is constantly out of line and my supervisor has never fixed the problem. Susie will walk around like they can solve all the problems and know everything. I hadn't even read this part yet, and that's funny. I assume that was the default of what Susie was doing and knows everything. They can't and they don't. Just today, I was on lunch and when I got down, they had clocked out. But before they went from where they were supposed to be to get into a supervisor's issue with a customer and started saying the customer was right. They weren't. I'm planning on talking to them Saturday, but I've never really reprimanded someone, but boy, do they deserve it.
There are no consequences to my actions anymore. No matter what I do, literally nothing bad can happen to me. I'm like a white male US senator.
Okay, so a couple things here. We've talked about observable behaviors. That's an observable behavior, quite clearly one. Now we need to make sure that Susie understands how things work. So I'd probably have a conversation before on, what's going on here? Why did you think the customer was right? Help me see what evidence you had or what policy you're referring to. All that's easily dealt with. Now the reprimanding part, reprimanding isn't the best word to use in these scenarios, particularly if you're talking to an employee.
I'm your superior officer!
I think having a performance conversation can be a little bit less confrontational. And look, you might go, well, it's the same thing. Fine, but language matters. And if you say to someone, come in, I need to reprimand you, not that they're going to say that, but if you say that, that's inflammatory. If you say, I want to have a coaching conversation or we need to have a bit of a chat around some of the performance things I'm seeing, that will not be as pleasant, but it definitely won't be as serious as you're getting reprimanded.
Okay, you know what? I want you to think about your future at this company. I want you to think about it long and hard.
That's what she said.
Don't you dare.
So I definitely encourage one, to watch the language. Two, I'm planning to talk to them on Saturday, but I've never done it before. I'd say practice. When we teach how to have difficult conversations, I literally just ran a workshop on this 2 days ago with a group of leaders, and the exact thing that they said was super useful was the whole peer practicing part. We give them a framework as well, which you can find on our website. If you go to teambuffalo.co/community, you'll see there where we've got all these tools on how to have difficult conversations more effectively. But for this particular thing we're talking about, what we did was we helped them understand that if you have this conversation peer-to-peer, or if you have it with your direct supervisor, because they mentioned there's another leader in this, that can actually help you feel really comfortable going to have the conversation. You'll get through all the pain and the errors, and they'll kind of know how Susie would react, so that's useful in dealing with the whole situation. So I'd say first, understand how you might be feeling about it and what you're observing. Second is practice the conversation. And then third is know what you want to get out of that meeting. So often people go into these conversations and they just want the behavior to completely stop.
Fine, I'll say I'm sorry.
No, be sincere. Like this. I'm sorry.
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 Good, that's the one.
And while I get that that's kind of what you want, it's not necessarily going to happen straight away. Instead, what we might have to do is set some clear targets or goals that Susie needs to meet in the interim while we fix performance. So if someone's particularly poor at something, which might be the case, to go from being super poor to amazing is probably a bridge too far, but to go from poor to not as bad might be a reasonable goal. So we want to make sure that Susie understands what those milestones might look like from a performance perspective, and then we can track her progress against that and continue the coaching and performance management side of things on the back of that. So there you go. That's today's short, sharp, with a boardroom segment on how to help a supervisor facing two issues. One around the slacking employee who they haven't really had a chance to address, and the second, which is having a subordinate who is constantly out of line and not being addressed by the other leader. Both of those are great issues that most leaders will face at one time or another, so good opportunity to address those. As I said, before you switch off, you can just move your mouse right there. You can click subscribe and then you'll get notified every time our content comes out. And if you have a question, pop it through to me and I'll answer it. More than happy to do that. Or you can ask in our community, teambuffalo.co/community. Awesome group of leaders, more and more leaders joining every day, trying to face the modern challenges that leaders face. Keep kicking ass and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. See you soon.